think darkness is your ally. You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it.
I now do what other people only dream. I make art until someone dies.
You're locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me.
These are the top 30 quotes from superhero movies.
For the first time in my life, I am proud to wear this suit. It means I'm an X-Man. I am the X-Man.
Yes, we're kicking things off with a rather poetic statement by Hugh Jackman. When he tells Deadpool that he is the X-Man, he is actually considering a lot of things other than his ego. As a matter of fact, I love the quote because he's not saying he's the X-Man because he's being a typical badass, but because he's the last of the X-Men in the world. That's what the suit means to him, representing all of his fallen friends.
Holy sh**. You save the good stuff for special occasions?
Killing mostly.
He's not wearing it for himself, but rather he's wearing it for them so that he can keep their memory alive. And if we consider things on a meta level, then we all know that Hugh Jackman is the face of the X-Men right from when the franchise started a whole 25 years ago.
How are you two still alive?
You were right. One of us would have been killed. But you put a Deadpool and a Wolverine together? Make them hold hands while listening to Madonna? Indestructible,
Bruce. Quite a fall, didn't we, Master Bruce?
And why do we fall, Bruce? So we can learn to pick ourselves up.
Everyone needs a father figure in their lives, even if the lack of one happens to be amongst the criteria for becoming a legendary superhero.
The bats again. You know why they attacked you, don't you? They were afraid of you.
Afraid of me?
All creatures feel fear,
Even the scary ones.
especially the scary ones.
Well, in Batman's case, at least he got to spend some valuable time with his dad, which involved some equally valuable lessons. One of these learnings came in the form of an amazing quote, wherein Thomas told Bruce that people only fall so they can learn to pick themselves back up. It's a seemingly simple line at first, but has implications that go way beyond a basic father-son conversation. It's stuff like this that made the Dark Knight so resilient, although perhaps Thomas should have also gone to the Batfleck universe to teach him not to be such a crybaby whenever he hears his mom's name.
Why do we fall, sir? So that we can learn to pick ourselves up. You still haven't given up on me. Never.
If we can get a picture of Julia Roberts in a thong, we can certainly get a picture of this weirdo. Put an ad on the front page. Cash money for a picture of Spider-Man. He doesn't want to be famous, and I'll make him infamous.
J. Jonah Jameson is an iconic character for all the right reasons, and the main reason for his popularity is his unrivaled hatred for Spider-Man.
They're crap. 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 Mega crap.
You could even say that bro was the first hater of the superhero movie genre.
You don't trust anybody, that's your problem.
I trust my barber.
One quote that definitely comes to mind is the one where he vows to make Spidey infamous, even though the general consensus is that he doesn't want to become famous in the first place.
Who is Spider-Man? He's a criminal, that's who he is. A vigilante. A public menace.
It goes to show how much passion Jameson has, although it's mostly misdirected towards the wrong person. I mean, where's this energy when you have to paint an actual villain in a bad light?
But could you pay me in advance?
You serious?
Just bury me in the ocean with my ancestors that jumped from the ships, because they knew death was better than bondage.
Killmonger was one of the few MCU villains who actually had proper grounds to be considered legendary, so his death scene was definitely impactful, especially after such a rough fight with T'Challa. What really gets me though is the quote he says about wanting to be buried in the ocean with his ancestors who jumped from their ships.
My pop said Wakanda was the most beautiful thing you ever seen. He promised he was going to show it to me one day. You believe that? Kid from Oakland running around believing in fairy tales.
It is a very powerful moment. As Killmonger explains, he too believes it's better to die than to be held captive. It's one of the reasons Black Panther works so well as a proper movie and not just as an MCU flick. Man, Michael B. Jordan was totally in his bag when he played this role, wasn't he?
Is this your king? Huh? Is this your king? Nah. I'm your king.
They're just following orders.
I've been at the mercy of men just following orders. Never again.
Magneto is one of those rare characters who's been played perfectly by both the actors who represent him. Sir Ian McKellen obviously did his thing in the OG X-Men films, but my god, Michael Fassbender had all of us siding with the main villain because of how well he aced the role. He gave so much depth and reason to Magneto with scenes that taught us why he eventually turned out to be the way he is.
Let's just say I'm Frankenstein's monster.
One such moment was when he decided to fight fire with fire right as the humans launched missiles on him and all the other mutants after they stopped Shaw's evil plan. Bro wasn't going to be at the mercy of men any longer, so he gave us an epic line and proceeded to enact one of the most badass Uno reverse situations I've ever seen.
Eric, I believe.
I prefer Magneto.
You will never win.
No, but I could lose again and again forever. That makes you my prisoner.
The main responsibility of being a superhero is that you need to be able to keep fighting even if your opponent is drastically stronger than you. Enter Doctor Strange with what is possibly the funniest and most painful way to defeat such an enemy.
Dormammu! Dormammu! Dormammu!
Set me free!
No. I've come to bargain.
Dormammu literally devours planets, so a wizard was never going to be enough to win a fistfight, even if he has the intellect of Sherlock Holmes. Luckily, that intellect came in handy for the time-stop loop, and Stephen Strange added his own touch of sass by making Dormammu know that even though he couldn't win, the least he could do was lose over and over again. Who knew you could make such a powerful foe your prisoner with such a trick?
Yeah, you know, you really should have stolen the whole book because the warnings come after the spells.
Oh, it's funny.
He's not weak, you know.
What?
Valuing life is not weakness.
Look, if you're talking about what happened in the containment unit, I had everything under control.
And disregarding it is not strength.
Sometimes you just need a level-headed person to remind you not to disregard other people, even if you happen to be the villain. It's pretty much what happens here between Syndrome and Mirage when she talks to him about Bob.
I'll crush her.
Oh, that sounds a little dark for you. I knew you couldn't do it, even when you have nothing to lose. You're weak, and I've outgrown you.
Syndrome was clueless here, and it served as one of the moments where Mirage felt she was probably not in the best of company. You could even say that this was like a wake-up call for her to leave Syndrome and stop his evil plans, but that's more of speculation, so I'd rather not get into those details. What I can say for sure is that Mirage said something really wise, which has its merits in the real world as well.
You must be Mrs.
Oh!
I told you. You'd die for that. You should have gone for the head.
Imagine being beaten and still coming out on top. That's the kind of villain Thanos was, as he managed to pull off his big plan even after being defeated by a massively overpowered Thor. I mean, this guy unleashed an infinity beam with all the Infinity Stones right at the God of Thunder and still got outdone by Stormbreaker. However, the moment Bro told Thor that he should have gone for the head, we all knew our man messed up. It was the perfect way to set up the catastrophe that followed, and it eventually turned Thor into a fat, beer-loving gamer bro. Damn, that's actually worse than getting beaten in battle.
Did you do it?
Yes,
What did it cost?
everything.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Don't you just hate it when you have to dispose of a bomb but can't seem to find the right outlet to do so? Well, Adam West's version of Batman came across this rather annoying predicament when he had to get rid of an explosive but kept running into innocent civilians wherever he went. To be fair, Bro told everyone in the bar to run outside if they wanted to live, only to chase after them with the exact threat.
Quick! Everyone! Flee for your lives! Into the street!
This confusion and chaos led to one super funny line which definitely would have ticked a lot of funny bones back in 1966. You could say this was peak comedy at the time, and if I still find it funny, you can only imagine how much of a success this particular moment must have been. If you're a Gen Z or Gen Alpha kid wondering if he actually succeeded, well, yes, he did indeed.
Grab it with your teeth!
You all right, Robin? You owe your life to dental hygiene.
Oh, you think darkness is your ally. You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it.
Yeah, we got done with the funny stuff in the earlier entry. Now let's take a look at something devastating. Never in my life have I ever been terrified of a Batman villain as when I saw Bane beat down the Dark Knight in this brutal sequence. It really got all my hopes up for a Heath Ledger Joker level performance, but let's not talk about how the second half totally took that away from us. What I can say though is that Tom Hardy gave us perfection here, not just with his physicality, but also with his acting. Some of the stuff he says in the scene really sticks with you, particularly the part about darkness.
Molded by it. I didn't see the light until I was already a man. By then it was nothing to me but blinding.
He was dead serious when he said he was born in the darkness and molded by it, because there's no way Bane could have outsmarted Bruce Wayne's stealth attack if that wasn't true. It really was a high impact moment which totally hyped up everyone in the audience for what was to follow next, and I will not elaborate on that any further.
And then, when it is done, and Gotham is ashes, then you have my permission to die.
Everyone keeps telling me how my story is supposed to go. Nah, I'm gonna do my own thing.
Miles Morales for the win. Yes, he's a character I've always supported right from my comic book days when I realized there was a cool version of Spider-Man who wasn't Peter Parker. The first Spider-Verse movie had me hyped AF for the next one, and it didn't disappoint at all. What's more is that we got such a beautiful and inspiring quote from a young kid who's still trying to make sense of his place in the world, or in this case, multiverse.
And I'm about to do this.
Taking on Spider-Man 2099 is no small task, but to own him with a legendary line after which you literally shock him out of your way makes for a great speech and a great flex. Bro had enough of the guilt trips and figured he's just gonna live life his own way, and that's exactly how it should be.
Anyone can wear the mask. You could wear the mask. 'Cause I'm Spider-Man.
Tell me. Do you bleed? You will.
Yes, this is easily one of the most badass quotes you could ever come up with, especially while talking to freaking Superman.
The bat is dead. Bury it. Consider this mercy.
I mean, Batman's supposed opponent can laser him to bits without even realizing it, but bro chose Aura instead. It's the confidence with which he asked this question too that totally gets me. Superman may not have thought much of it here, but he does end up regretting the whole thing later. As a matter of fact, he remembered it so well that he asked the exact same question to Batman in Justice League when he didn't have the luxury of endless kryptonite.
Tell me.
Yeah, if karma could ever be explained in a sequence of events, then this is it.
Breathe it in. That's fear. You're not brave. Men are brave.
You have no idea what you're dealing with.
Shakespeare in the Park?
Doth mother know you weareth her drapes?
Humour has never been a stranger in the world of the MCU, although the newer phases really did stretch it to a point where we all got sick of it. Regardless, there's nothing like the good old days, and by that I mean 2012's The Avengers.
Do not touch me again.
Then don't take my stuff.
The highlight of this scene is obviously the fight between Thor and Iron Man, but the reason why it's being shown to you today is because of a rather hilarious line by Tony Stark. Bro really didn't care that he was up against a literal god and went on to mock him for his choice of attire.
Shakespeare in the Park?
It was already a big risk, but then Iron Man went on to get Thor's mom involved as well. That's a line you just don't cross, which is probably why the God of Thunder showed no mercy to the MCU's King of Sass.
Thor.
Access denied.
God of Thunder.
Access denied.
Strongest Avenger.
Access denied.
Damn you, Stark. Point Break.
Welcome, Point Break.
You can fire your arrows from the Tower of Babel, but you can never strike gold!
Ever wondered what it feels like to face the wrath of God? Well, Apocalypse may not be the ideal version of a holy deity, but he is the undisputed mutant god, so he's going to qualify for this statement.
No more swords. No more weapons. No more systems.
No more superpowers.
What's so effective about his speech here is that he's saying it while literally preparing to nuke the entire world. Yes, this is a catastrophic event that definitely reaches god-level danger, but Apocalypse decided to take it a step further by declaring the humans could never strike someone as overpowered as him. Man, the speech delivery was on point, and I really wonder how Oscar Isaac was able to pull off such a memorable performance under heaps of makeup. Well, maybe that's why he's a renowned actor and I'm making YouTube videos. Not that it's a self-burn or anything. I love making content for you.
Everything they've built will fall, and from the ashes of their world, we'll build a better one!
Vengeance won't change the past, mine or anyone else's. I have to become more.
Robert Pattinson finally makes a comeback to the TV region, and yes, it's with his iconic eyeliner. Just kidding. The only line we're going to be talking about here is the one where Batman says he has to become more than what he already is. This comes toward the end of the movie, so it's quite understandable for him to feel this way, especially after taking on the likes of the Riddler in such a stressful manner. What's more important is the fact that Bruce Wayne shows a more matured version of himself, who's not at all concerned with vengeance, but rather about justice.
People need hope. To know someone's out there for them.
This is the transition that turned the Dark Knight into what he really is remembered for.
Our scars can destroy us, even after the physical wounds have healed. But if we survive them, they can transform us.
And it marks an important moment for this particular franchise, as it's not exactly a part of the new DC universe, but it's kind of like the new wave Christopher Nolan version of Batman, although I really shouldn't be using that comparison. Either way, this serves as a reminder to all of us that we should always strive to be better than the person we are today.
They can give us the power to endure, and the strength to fight.
Wayne freak terrorizes. Wait till they get a load of me.
Listen, Heath Ledger was definitely a master of his craft, and his version of the Joker remains the best one out there. But let's not forget Jack Nicholson, who comes in at a very close second, with popularity being the only reason he's not the top rendition of the character.
I now do what other people only dream. I make art until someone dies. I am the world's first fully functioning homicidal artist.
Consider the eerie sequence when the Joker tells us we're yet to get a load of him right after he reads the newspaper mentioning Batman. The look on his face after he says his iconic line is the creepy, epic version of what he's supposed to look like.
If you could see inside, I really cried. You might join me for a week.
It's why I still consider his costume and makeup to be the best out of all the live-action Jokers we've got so far. Also, I feel Jack Nicholson was more naturally suited to the role, considering how he was very much an eccentric person during his career. The look really suited him, don't you think?
The pen is truly mightier than the sword.
Now might be a really good time for you to get angry.
That's my secret, Captain. I'm always angry.
This one's got to be a lesson for you if you're struggling with anger issues and temper tantrums. So, as per Bruce Banner, the key to solving your problems is to simply accept them and turn into an angry green giant when it gets too far. That's exactly what we see in the Battle of New York when Bruce tells Cap his big secret right before turning into the Hulk and going Saitama on the massive Leviathan with a single punch.
And Hulk. Smash.
This version of the Hulk was definitely the best thing that Mark Ruffalo could give us in the MCU, and his line went on to become so famous that it became a staple of meme culture back in 2012. Damn, that was 12 years ago now that I think about it, but if you end up giving the world such a reusable quote, you're bound for internet glory and the timeless kind.
I am a god, you dull creature, and I will not be bullied by
Puny god.
This city's afraid of me. I've seen its true face. And all the whores and politicians will look up and shout, "Save us." And I'll whisper, "No."
Rorschach has pretty much established his own legacy here as the most memorable character from 2009's Watchmen. That dude had so much badass stuff inside of him that he probably would have had enough to distribute to his own gang. Now, I know regular fans of the TV region would be thinking that I'd go with the iconic prison line, but actually, I'm going to do things differently today. I'm going to include Rorschach's opening scene where he tells us that the city is afraid of him.
The streets are extended gutters, and the gutters are full of blood. And when the drains finally scab over, all the vermin will drown.
while also expressing how he feels about the people who live there. I mean, it's pretty intense and full of hatred, so I can imagine why the folks would be scared of him. However, at the same time, you can sense that the character has been wronged by the city and the disgust in his voice reflects the same. Like, bro was ready to destroy a whole civilization with the way he was narrating his thoughts in this sequence.
This awful city, it screams like an abattoir full of retarded children, and the night reeks of fornication and bad consciences.
Also, the final part where he says he'll deny help to the filthy ones who asked for it totally gave me goosebumps. Jackie L. Haley was definitely born to play this role, and no one can tell me otherwise.
I'm not locked in here with you.
You're locked in here with me!
Let's put a smile on that face. And... why so serious?
Well, we just had to get the Joker involved somehow, didn't we? The scene in question has Bro somehow overpowering Michael Jai White, but that's not my concern. It's the epic speech he gives on how he got his scars.
He turns to me, and he says, "Why so serious?" He comes at me with the knife. "Why so serious?"
The background music emphasizing his words and amplifying the tension served as a great bit of embellishment to what would eventually turn out to become one of the most iconic lines in a Batman movie. Just hearing him say the words,
"Why so serious?"
is enough to send shivers down my spine. Man, Heath Ledger really acted like the rent was due here, huh?
I'm only burning my half. It's not about money. It's about sending a message. Everything burns.
Avengers!
Assemble.
The moment that everyone has been waiting for so long had to be included here, especially for all the comic book enthusiasts who had wanted to hear Avengers Assemble right from the 2012 flick. This is a monumental moment that serves as the trigger point to the greatest crossover battle in film history, and even if it may not be true cinema, it definitely is true entertainment. Sorry, Martin Scorsese, you're still in my top 10 directors of all time if that makes you feel any better, okay? Now, getting back to the quote. We need to understand how timing plays such a huge role in making it special. The line is a well-known one if you've read the comics, but you're obviously going to want to see it recited on the big screen, aren't you? Well, the Marvel producers seem to have known that a bit too well, so they made sure to tease us all right until the culmination of everything they built came together in one epic moment. And yes, it was only fitting for Captain America to scream it out because he's always been the de facto leader of the group. Man, I'd give anything just to experience the feeling of watching the whole thing play out in the cinema for the first time again.
This is the fight of our lives. And we're gonna win. Whatever it takes.
The old blind lady from the laundromat, Al.
God, I miss cocaine.
Her. Fourth wall break inside a fourth wall break. That's like 16 walls.
I don't think I'd start my top 10 with such a frivolous line, but honestly speaking, it's extremely popular and very quotable as well, so it narrowly edges out the Joker and Endgame line. After all, it was the battle scene that really took the cake in that one, but in this case, we're only looking at words. So yes, it was an epic feeling to see Deadpool calling out a fourth wall break and then bringing our attention to it yet again.
Whoops, you weren't meant to see that.
I mean, the logic he showcases here is something that's applicable not just to Deadpool, but also to movies in general. Breaking the fourth wall may not be an exclusive trait for Wade Wilson, but he sure knows how to do it smoothly.
You might want to look away for this. Now this little piggy went to...
I think the reason why it's such an impactful line is because we never really expected any character to call out the fourth wall break, which, as per Deadpool's calculations, turns out to be
16 walls.
It's hilarious for sure, and when I saw it in the theatre, I actually remembered some of the best movies like the Monty Python series which had fourth wall breaks. Sure, the future Deadpool movie also had tons of such stuff, but nothing really hit as hard as this particular quote.
But I appreciate the gesture.
Am I crazy? Or is your hand really small?
About the size of a KFC spork.
You don't have to fight anymore.
Don't be what they made you.
Okay, so we laughed plenty in the previous entry, so it's time to whip out the tissues because we're going to have an emotional moment here. 2017's Logan remains the best X-Men movie I've seen to date, and yes, this includes the OG trilogy as well. There's so much depth in the characters that are shown to us, and even though most of the film seems desolate, it does end up with hope in the form of the final few lines that Wolverine says to Laura. The most important one being for him asking her not to become what she was made for, but rather to become what she wanted to be.
This is what it feels like.
It's such a tremendous moment in terms of the emotions on display, and I also want to add that the final line where Logan says, "So this is what it feels like," that alone could have meant so many things. The most common interpretation being death, but it could have also referred to Logan finally knowing what it was like to be a father. Look, I can go further into depth as to what kind of significance this moment holds, but to keep things short, I'll just say that the main quote is to do with the freedom of choice. What Wolverine effectively told his daughter was, "You're not bound by the shackles of your creators," and I don't think anything in the entire X-Men universe will ever be able to top this in terms of emotional impact.
Last ride. Welcome.
Okay, it's not working out. I'm gonna need the suit back.
For how long?
Forever.
Please, Mr.
Let's
Stark,
have it.
you don't understand. Please, this is all I have. I'm nothing without this suit.
If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it.
You might be surprised to see a line like this get all the way to number 8, especially with some of the gems we've already discussed so far. However, even though this was a casual moment, it speaks a lot about how both Spider-Man and Iron Man are closely knit together in the MCU storyline.
Do you know that I was the only one who believed in you? Everyone else said I was crazy to recruit a 14-year-old kid.
I'm 15.
No, this is where you zip it, all right? The adult is talking.
Yes, Tony Stark is supposed to be some kind of pseudo-father figure to Peter Parker, but the lesson he gives him here clearly has his own self-reflection and projections in place. See, unlike Spidey, Tony doesn't really have any superpowers. The only way he's any good in battle is if he's got his suit on, but he made sure not to turn that hindrance into an eternal regret. Instead, he uses his genius and his wealth to combine the most important member of the Avengers. Had he only relied on his suit, then he would have probably been known for his jokes and occasional battle victories.
Please tell me nobody kissed me.
He wants to make sure that Spider-Man has the same mentality in this scene when he tells him that he doesn't deserve his suit if he's nothing without it.
I just wanted to be like you.
And I wanted you to be better.
After all, your tools can only get you so far. It's your own resolve that makes the difference.
Don't do anything I would do, and definitely don't do anything I wouldn't do. There's a little gray area in there, and that's where you operate.
That's not a hug. I'm just grabbing the door for you. We're not there yet. Bye.
Humanity does this to us.
Not if we show them a better path.
You still believe?
Just because someone stumbles, loses their way, it doesn't mean they're lost forever.
Oh man, I can totally imagine the current version of myself saying it to me back when I was a kid. Sometimes the only thing which can help you is your own conscience. And luckily for Charles Xavier, he actually had the power to connect with the older version of himself in order to gain some crucial perspective.
And as frightening as it may be, that pain will make you strong. If you allow yourself to feel it, embrace it, it will make you more powerful than you ever imagined.
Days of Future Past is widely regarded as the best X-Men movie from the rebooted Fox timeline, and rightfully so. It gave us tons of great content while also being philosophical in a way. Here, when Professor X is at his wit's end because of how things have turned out for him, it's none other than Patrick Stewart who comes to his aid, and the words he spoke were so real that Kendrick Lamar should probably use them for his next album.
And it's born from the most human part. Hope. Charles, we need you to hope again.
This quote also serves as a reminder to all those people out there who feel as if they've lost the plot with their lives. It's just like Charles says, you may have stumbled for now, but you're not lost forever. I mean, you'd be surprised to know how many people actually need to hear stuff like this just so they can keep their cool and don't do something that could ruin their lives forever. Well, at least James McAvoy paid heed to those words.
The world's already begun rebuilding its arsenals. It's human nature, Charles.
I still have hope.
Oh, yes. Hope.
You could die. At least tell me your name.
It's not who I am underneath, but what I do that defines me.
Now, this is something that our school teachers would have wanted us to learn during our childhood, but unfortunately for the ones who had jobs before 2005, they couldn't give the example of Batman Begins to further motivate their children. Now, this line is actually a lot deeper than just surface level stuff, which is also a play on the actual quote.
It's not who you are underneath. It's what you do that defines you.
Bruce Wayne is a complex individual with a past that would have broken down many others in his position. However, just like he says here, it's not who he is underneath the suit that matters, but rather his actions that define him.
I can do those things because I'm not a hero. I'm like that. I killed those people. That's what I can be. No, you can't. You're not. I'm whatever Gotham needs me to be.
At the end of the day, it shouldn't be such a big deal that the billionaire Bruce Wayne is actually Batman. What makes it special is that despite his past trauma and his enormous wealth, he's making sure that his actions put him on the right side of history. I mean, sure, bro likes to act like a giga chad and hang out with pretty ladies, but that's only because he's a man of culture. These are habits that don't make a difference, especially when you're going around fighting crime and keeping people safe, even though you don't really have a legal obligation to do so. It's a great lesson to people in general as well. Your persona and your past shouldn't matter as long as your actions are being directed towards the greater good. Well, as long as you don't have the mindset of Thanos.
He's a silent guardian, a watchful protector, a dark knight.
Big man in a suit of armor. Take that off, what are you?
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
Is it really a clip about the most iconic quotes without including this gem from the Avengers? Tony Stark summed up his entire personality in this one line and humbled Captain America to the point of no return.
You're not the guy to make the sacrifice play. To lay down on a wire and let the other guy crawl over you.
I think I would just cut the wire.
To be fair to Steve Rogers, nobody was really rooting for his excessively moralistic view on Tony Stark's persona, so he never really stood a chance when Iron Man gave him the greatest clapback of all time. Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
You know, you may not be a threat, but you better stop pretending to be a hero.
A hero? Like you? You're a laboratory experiment, Rogers. Everything special about you came out of a bottle.
These are the four pillars upon which the MCU writers created their most legendary character, and they did well to frame him in a way that appealed to audiences all over the globe. Even if you happen to be one of the few people who did side with Cap during this argument, you can't deny the fact that Iron Man's sass alone decimated Steve Rogers.
You're not going alone. You gonna stop me?
Put on the suit, let's find out. I'm not afraid to hit an old man. Put on the suit.
The quote in itself has been immortalized in memes and pop culture parodies. What made it even better was the nonchalance with which Robert Downey Jr. delivered his lines. I mean, bro had so much aura here, he could have competed with Sung Jin-woo from Solo Leveling. But yeah, on a serious note, the impact of this quote alone was good enough to land it in the top 5.
Is that the last donut with red, white, and blue sprinkles? I feel a storm brewing.
Don't know when to give up, do you?
I can do this all day.
Now this is a line every man wishes he could say no matter how difficult his situation might be. Captain America may have gotten violated in the previous entry, but he does manage to land a higher entry with this quote which he stated on so many occasions to the point that it's pretty much like a brand slogan for him.
I could do this all day. I can do this all day.
However, tons of people out there can relate to this because it showcases a tremendous sense of badassery. The reason I'm only considering the first Captain America movie for this entry is because it contains the first instance of Steve Rogers using the line, and it was in his original weakened form. Yes, imagine being a short, scrawny little kid from Brooklyn up against a bunch of bullies way bigger than you, and you still have the audacity to tell them that you could do this all day.
Sometimes I think you like getting punched.
I had him on the ropes.
It's the kind of moment that makes men all over the world go hell yeah, because they can totally relate to it. It's not about whether you're strong enough to take on your ops, but more about whether you have the desire in you to keep going despite the odds. It's because of this very mentality that Captain America is an OG Avenger and has gone on to create one of the most memorable moments of the MCU as a member of its big three.
Bucky, come on, there are men laying down their lives. I got no right to do any less than them. That's what you don't understand.
I don't want to kill anyone. I don't like bullies. I don't care where they're from.
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
If foreshadowing had a face, it would be Harvey Dent. Well, technically, his final form has two faces, but we'll just ignore that technicality for now. The Dark Knight is a movie that pretty much changed the perception of Batman as a superhero in the eyes of the audience. It wasn't just about him being this super badass fighter who would solve mysteries and fight crime. It was also about a man who overcame his own internal struggles to become what his city needed and deserved. With the Joker being the main antagonist, it can be easy to forget that Two-Face was actually the final hurdle Bruce Wayne had to defeat.
Whoever the Batman is, he doesn't want to do this for the rest of his life. How could he? Batman is looking for someone to take up his mantle.
And nothing sums it up better than the iconic quote Harvey gave when he was still a hero. His line holds true across so many lines of logic because it reflects on humanity's tendencies to forget a celebrated past just to criticize a current failure. That's right, one mistake is all it takes to undo years and years of hard work and sacrifice, which is kind of what happened to Harvey himself.
It's not about what I want. It's about what's fair! You thought we could be decent men in an indecent time!
Which makes the quote extremely iconic. Bro became the victim of his own foreshadowing without even knowing it. And I guess that's the price you have to pay for being omniscient, eh?
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
The truth is, I am Iron Man.
Oh yes, there's nothing quite like an iconic declaration of awesomeness, especially if you happen to be Iron Man. This entry being placed at number 2 is my way of paying tribute to the legendary run the MCU had right from 2008's I Am Iron Man to the exact same line from 2019's Avengers Endgame.
And I
In both cases, Tony Stark's letting the audience know that he truly is the man who's going to cement his legacy with this role. Of course, in 2008, it was more like, yeah, I'm going to be the big boss of this franchise for over a decade. And in 2019, it was, and with that, I conclude my service. It's essentially a full circle moment, which is why I intentionally chose to cover these two movies.
Then again, that's the hero gig. Part of the journey is the end.
As it adds so much more context and value to the quote in itself. Of course, the main reason for choosing to do this was because of the emotional quotient, because, come on, don't you just enjoy nostalgia of better times? Can you even believe they were going to go with some cheesy line at first for Endgame? Luckily, it all played out just like fate would have wanted it to, and we got the perfect final dialogue from the main character amongst all the other main characters of the industry's main franchise at the time.
What am I even tripping for? Everything's gonna work out exactly the way it's supposed to. I love you 3000.
Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yes, the moment that defined every teenage boy and young adult male back in the 2000s would obviously take up the #1 spot today. This is a line that isn't just supposed to be impactful in terms of movie, but also in real life, because it's so true from a general standpoint.
Peter, these are the years when a man changes into the man he's going to become the rest of his life. Just be careful who you change into.
What Uncle Ben said here may have been in the middle of a heated discussion with his nephew, but the man was spitting facts way harder than Drake's lawyers, although that really isn't a strong benchmark to have.
This guy, Flash Thompson, he probably deserved what happened. But just because you can beat him up doesn't give you the right to.
Anyway, these words would go on to hold great significance over Peter Parker and his actions as Spider-Man, because with great power comes great responsibility. I mean, this is a line that holds true not just for our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, but every other superhero out there as well. You could even say that it acted like a guiding principle for all the comic book movies that came out after it. Also, just like the earlier Iron Man entry, this line is said twice, although the second time comes from Spidey himself.
I will never forget these words. With great power comes great responsibility.
And it works because it marks how Peter Parker is now ready to carry on and create his own legacy, with his motto being the most significant thing his uncle would have ever told him. Well, that was until he became Bully Maguire, but we'll just write that off as a rebel goth phase, okay?
Who am I? I'm Spider-Man.
Hope you liked the video. Please subscribe to the TV Regent, and here's another video I know you're going to enjoy.